I am delighted to welcome Mike Dynan, founder of the Assembly Events Group and organisers of CrimeCon UK. How you doing, Mike?
Doing very, very well indeed, Dan.
Mike, obviously very exciting time for you and your team and Assembly Events in general, because you've got an event next week. So 25th, 26th, you've got CrimeCon UK. Before we get into that, for those that aren't aware, it'd be always good to sort of understand the background of the person I'm talking to and how you set up Assembly. So just give us a potted history of Mike Dynan.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I was one of the founders at Media 10, which I know you and I sort of spent some time there together, and I was there for 17 years. Set up the events division with some of the other partners there with the launch of Grand Designs and Grand Designs Live back in 2005. And as you know, we went on to launch lots of shows. I was sales director in the UK for many years across most of the events that we had here. And during that time, I was also lucky enough to go out and set the business up in South Africa, first of all, where we took Grand Designs down to Johannesburg. Sure. And then after that, I was lucky enough to get out to Shanghai and set up Media 10 China. And I was out there running various events, Design Shanghai, we launched Design China, Beijing, Xintiandi Design Festival. We took the Ideal Home Show out and the Best of British event, which we did with the British government and sort of luxury British side. So we had a great time over there, ended up living there and spending sort of from 2017, 2019. And then we did the sale to Clarion of the design portfolio out there. And I came back, decided for one reason or another, it was time to do something different. So set up the Assembly. Then the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden, setting up a live events business didn't seem quite so shrewd. So we've been juggling sort of virtual events, now hybrid events, and setting up. Getting ready for this period now and coming out of lockdown. And we're, as you say, very excited to be launching now.
So when you set the Assembly up, it was with a view, I guess, obviously to running shows, and then as you said, you sort of pivoted, excuse the phrase everyone uses, into virtual. And so you were just giving us a history there. You've run, obviously, the Ideal Home Show, Mass Consumer Show. You've run trade shows. And Assembly, correct me if I'm wrong, is going to be mostly, I guess, based on consumer, or at least the one next week is. What do you think are the main differences between trade and consumer? Always useful to get a view in terms of promoting and putting them on.
Yeah, of course, the biggest difference is in the marketing. At the end, every show is the same. It's about getting the right people there and the right exhibitors there together and giving them a good time. And obviously, every show that I've ever worked on, we've tried to make it, as fun, as creative, as aesthetically pleasing, as content-led, as driven as possible. So we'll definitely be working on both consumer shows and trade shows, but with that same kind of philosophy that it's got to look good, it's got to feel right, it's got to be packed full of content, and it's got to really hit the industry, whichever industry that is, whichever type of show that is, it's got to be obviously very, very relevant. But what we're really interested in is events around community. Right. Because the most difficult thing about particularly a consumer event is the marketing side, is getting the people there. It's so much broader than a trade show. When you launch a trade show, as long as you get the right partners, you've got the right media, the trade media behind you, it's not going to cost you the earth to advertise it, to market it. And you've got a much smaller pool of people that you're going after often. When you're advertising something like CrimeCon that we've got next week, our visitors are coming from, from the Isle of Skye, from Vietnam, and God willing from America and Canada still, So, we've had to be very, very broad with our marketing, and that's the sort of biggest and most difficult thing about a consumer event.
Sure. But obviously, just as rewarding nonetheless. Now, we were discussing before we went on air, you've actually run an event already, sort of post Boris's fourth lockdown ending in July, the Ultimate Home and Garden Fair. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so what we wanted to do, we were, as tired and fed up as, every other organiser out there for the last 2 years. But our difference being we didn't have products that were kind of mothballed and sitting on ice that we were waiting to get going again. So we've obviously had to launch things. Now, with all the exhibition venues being shut, with everything that's been going on at Olympia, with all the type of space, with everybody wanting to cram into, the back end of this year, we sort of were looking at other spaces that we can use. And one of those was Blue Water Shopping Centre. Retail, on the reverse, was doing the opposite. They'd lost tenants. They had more space. They were obviously opening up before the exhibition centres, so we thought it would be quite a cute idea to put a consumer show in the middle of a shopping mall back in July. So lockdown hadn't actually officially even ended because it got delayed by a month. It was supposed to be. So we still had masks and we still had one way, but it was a really successful event. And for the exhibitors, that were there, it was great. First event of that type, pop-up exhibition style event they'd had in 2 years. And for the ones that didn't have any sort of retail space of their own, which obviously a few of our exhibitors, it was the first time they'd actually spoken to customers in 2 years at an event like that. So, it went down very well.
Yeah. Well, I guess, obviously, with the advent of online shopping, lots of people don't have physical spaces anymore, do they? So actually, it's a good opportunity for them to go and meet the public. Is that something you're going to repeat?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so coming on to CrimeCon, which is said next weekend at the Leonardo Royal Hotel and Spa in St Paul's. I had a good look at it before I came on. Very nice.
Yeah, a lot of people might know it's the Grange. It was the Grange until pre-lockdown, so it's quite a famous hotel overlooking St Paul's. Beautiful terrace spa up there. So it's a nice destination.
You're selling it. So that
I've got to. They'll give me money off if I do.
Yeah. How excited are you to be? Obviously, we've just discussed you did run an event, but how excited? Obviously, this is your baby, I guess, the thing you've been working on for a long time. Before we get into the detail, generally as the founder, and how excited are you and your staff to actually be going to the event?
It's amazing. Yeah, it's been wonderful. Obviously, we had a full start. It was going to be in June. We've had to move it back once, but the support that we've had for it was fantastic. And I think because of the genre that we're working in, a lot of the people that are behind it are TV companies, production companies, podcasters, authors and publishers. And a lot of these industries haven't struggled during the lockdown. People have watched more telly, people have listened to more podcasts. So actually, from that respect, we've actually had quite a good way to market our audience, quite a good lot of content, but people are just desperate to get back together. And we've managed to sell out of tickets. We've got a handful left coming into this week. We'll have 800 people there over the weekend. We've got, as I say, people coming from other countries, hopefully still flying in. We've obviously a few of those through concerns. We lost a few of those sort of international visitors, but that's great for next year because we know we've got somewhere to sort of expand it into. And it's very exciting. The team are you're chomping at the bit to get on site.
So tell us about it. Just summarise what the event is and what people, who's going to go and what they're going to do there.
Sure. So CrimeCon it's a conference. It's a consumer-based conference around true crime, but it's not. It's very cerebral. The visitors are not macabre in any way. It's they're very sympathetic and empathetic people who want to meet with like-minded people. Sort of armchair detectives is something you sort of hear quite a lot of. We've got one lady, who's probably the most famous lady in the world. There was a big Netflix documentary called "Don't F with Cats," which
I've watched that. Oh right, okay.
So the lady in there, Deanna Thompson, aka Body Moving, as she was on her internet handle, is actually flying in from Las Vegas. So she's probably one of the most famous people for actually doing that. Actually, saw someone putting out videos.
She set the Facebook group up, right? I think originally, was that right? About the show, about the person that was doing this.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So she started putting things online. She was watching somebody who was mistreating animals online, and quite often, so I've learned in the last year, serial killers progress from from moments like this. So actually finding this person, and this is exactly what happened. And then these videos were getting more and more sinister online. She got a group of people together, and it was actually this group of online people that sent the Interpol to an internet cafe in Germany to pick this guy up, thousands of miles from his home in Canada and thousands of miles from where they were sitting, in different corners of the state. So that's a really interesting one. And obviously that kind of popularity of these Netflix shows, and there's been, so many of them all across Netflix, and now, all the ones on ITV that have just, we've just had, and BBC have had The Serpent, and the one that Dennis, the one about Dennis Nilsson recently, they're just everywhere at the moment. And there's this really growing public interest in this kind of genre. Podcasting as well, it's gone from the sort of number 3 genre of podcasters to now it's overtaken comedy and sport as kind of number 1. So it is a big audience participation.
And what do you think is why the fascination, do you think, with sort of crime and murder? I mean, I've made a note here of the ones that I've watched recently. As you said, the Dennis Nielsen one. There was one about Lynette White, I think, and a lady that was murdered in Wales. There's obviously the Fred West one, Making of a Murderer. I mean, there's so many, and that's just a few that I've watched.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the fascination with it?
Well, the thing is, I mean, we've always been interested in crime and thrillers. You know, everybody's watched their favourite, crime show or fictional character, for generations and generations. Yeah. This is real events that are, as shocking, as terrifying as the real thing, and people are just, starting to document these a lot more. I think particularly some countries are a bit more open with what people have got access to in terms of evidence and what people are wanting to share. And I think particularly in America, the police force and the law enforcement forces uses the media a lot more. And, I think the two things have become, a bit more intertwined.
Yeah. And so the description of the event, or part of the description, says our events are equal parts education and experience. And I've had a good look, and it looks like there's some amazing sort of immersive experiences that people are going to be able to sort of get involved with. Like I saw you literally go into a crime scene and bring that to life. What are people going to expect to do next week?
That's right. So as well as the sort of normal, seminar style, theatres, of which we have about four big stages, we also have these practical experiences. So as you quite rightly said, people go and investigate a real crime scene, and try and, discover for themselves what happened. And as part of that, they get a sort of CSI training course, from the experts. So they're going to meet with, pathologists and forensic scientists and have a go at fingerprinting, looking at blood splatters, footprint molds, all that kind of thing they can do, as well as, a bit more of the sort of, lighter side. They're going to meet with some of the canine detectives and see how the police dogs can operate and, all of those things as well. So, whilst you can come and sit in front of a theatre stage all weekend, if you want to, and absorb that kind of knowledge and ask questions. If you want to get a bit more hands-on, you can do that as well.
Yeah, no, amazing. I was looking at it. I was like, this really cool. It's like different things you can actually get involved with. There is a serious side. We were talking off air that I saw your co-founder, Nancy Bourne, who was on Steph McGovern's Packed Lunch when I should have been doing something else. I was watching that. But she was there with, the lady that is running the Nicola Payne campaign, her mother, and that's obviously still a live case. So
absolutely,
there is a serious side to what you're doing as well.
It's a very, very serious side. Although it is a fun weekend in that you're going to meet a lot of friends and a lot of like-minded people. There's a lot of good fun to be had. Everybody stays at the hotel. Drinks afterwards. We've got. Some other associated trips to the Old Bailey and Jack the Ripper walks and other bits and pieces, to make it a bit more fun. But it is a very, very serious subject, and everything that we do is done very sympathetically. We have got a lot of the families coming along, and a lot of these cases, like the one that you mentioned just then, are still cold cases. There's still people who are, even if people have been put behind bars, like in this instance, the family want to find the body so they can lay it to rest, they can get some peace. There's family members there from cases. You might remember the Susie Lamplow case, very famous in the 80s. The estate agent that just went missing, on a call out, no more evidence, no one's ever been sort of caught for that either. So their family are coming along, and CrimeCon, as you saw yourself, keeps these cases in the public eye. It gives these families a voice and a sympathetic and understanding platform where we can put it out to our channels, to our community, and it enables it to stay relevant with people even sort of 30 years on. So there's certain rewards still, for new evidence, and actually CrimeCon, which launched in the States some years ago, has had some real success stories, where by keeping the story in the public eye, by keeping the information out there, that it's led to new clues, new leads, and eventually to people being caught. Yeah,
well, because I listened to Nancy, made a good point. The police have only got so much resource. And I guess, unfortunately, at some point they not move on, but they've got to also focus on the cases of today. So actually, this helps sort of keep that, as you said, in the public eye. You just mentioned the States. Obviously, there are crime cons in various locations in the US, and the CrimeCon UK version is a joint venture with Red Seat Ventures.
Correct.
Just bring that to life. How does that work generally? Like when you're sort of working with an organisation to take what they've got in one location into another?
Sure. Well, Red Seat Ventures are a fantastic company based in New York, and they were not event organisers first. They were actually talent management and content producers, and they found themselves working in this true crime arena. A lot of their talent, a lot of their speakers, a lot of their guests, their podcasters were from this kind of genre, and they were very, very involved in that. So they decided to take what they knew about true crime and turn that into, an event. Obviously, Nancy and I come at it from a slightly different angle. We're very much event organisers. When they wanted to bring it to the UK, we took their sort of skills, their expertise, their knowledge in the genre and turned that into this successful UK event.
Yeah, amazing. So, and obviously they've got their shows, I think in Chicago is one of the locations.
That they move around every year. I mean, they've got the advantage in the States of having, big venues, because they get sort of 5,000 or 6,000 people along to the America ones now. It started similar sort of size than we are this year, but they're spoilt for choice in terms of several thousand seater auditoriums. So they kind of pick it up and move it all over the place. So it's been in Austin. Sure. It was due to be in Orlando this year. Didn't happen. It's going to be in Las Vegas next year. So they've been all over the place with it, and that in itself is nice. We're hoping to move the UK version around, but obviously in terms of big enough auditoriums in nice locations, we're a bit more stuck in the UK.
No, absolutely. And over and above Red Seat, obviously having partners on board are really important. And I know it's Crime Investigation, right? Is your sort of key partner. Tell us about that. Bring to life some of the partners on the show and sponsors.
They've been fabulous. I mean, Crime Investigation, as I mentioned earlier, the genres that we're working in, the media that we're working with, is a lot to do with the TV stations and the broadcasters, but also the publishers, the podcasters, and that's where our sponsors come from. So Crime Investigation has been a wonderful partner for us, came on board right at the very start. It's something that they really wanted to get behind, and as well as all the usual bits that you'd expect with a sponsor in terms of sort of revenues and helping us out there. There've been much more. I mean, they've got a TV channel which is absolutely on the same, with it talking to the same people that we are. So they've had advertising and sponsorship of shows, and then now at the event they will be bringing a lot of their sort of A-list speakers, presenters from a lot of their shows. They'll be bringing a lot of their shows to life. They'll be hosting a lot of people at the event. So it's a really, really good partnership that we have with them, really strong partnership. So it'd be great. And then, of course, as I mentioned, Bonnier Books are doing a very similar thing, but with true crime authors. Audible, doing a very similar sort of thing, but with their true crime podcasters. Woodcut Media, our production company, who specialise in a lot of the programmes which go out, a lot on CNI, but also on other channels as well. So they're bringing a lot of filmmakers, producers, people that have appeared in shows. So we've got this fantastic relationship with these partners. We've built up a very strong group where, as I say, they're bringing helping us with the contributors. They're bringing a lot to the actual event, and we've all been helping each other market it throughout the year.
Well, we wish you the best of luck with it, and I know people can. I think you said there's still a few tickets, and they can generally have a look at crimecon.co.uk.
Absolutely right. Yeah, there's a handful of tickets left. We have just released a few sort of daytime ones, so if it is a bit short notice and you're busy on Sunday or Saturday, but it's going to be a great weekend. Everybody's very, very excited to get together, and we're looking forward to it.
And what else can we expect from the assembly events in the future?
We have got some quite big plans. We had some really good stuff that we were excited about pre-pandemic. We were very close to sort of launching a couple of events. We've got some really good irons in some fires, but I'm not going to say too much more now because we're waiting for the ink to dry on a couple of contracts. But we've been doing, it's taught us a lot over the last couple of years. We've really sort of learned new skills with the whole virtual thing. I think you and I sort of a while ago were talking about
Enzo is the product, right?
That's right. So we were involved in the development of a virtual platform, which is still, is wonderful and is moving on all the time. We're currently working with the Academy of international extended reality. We're doing a lot of events for them, and they bring a lot of technology. We've put these whole teams in the mix, and we're looking at how we can take Enzo to the next level to actually make a virtual reality exhibition platform. Amazing. Because although we might all be a bit nervous about it, I don't think it's that far away. You know, with people bringing out Microsoft HoloLenses, Google glasses, Facebook glasses, although we all shudder a bit at the moment, you know, what I'm sort of seeing, what I'm hearing, you know, and the way that we're looking to take Enzo, you know, this is not a million miles away.
I think you're right. I think that's the direction of travel. It's just the timing, but you're absolutely right. And also we all go to exhibitions, and a lot of exhibitors now have their own VR headsets, and so they're sort of on board with it. So, you know, the natural next step is for the show itself to do that.
I mean, don't get me wrong, you know, I can't wait to get back into the live event and the live side of things. But I think one thing the last couple of years has taught us, there is going to be a hybrid element. There is going to be a virtual element to, you know, as you said, to the content, to some shows, to reducing travel, to reducing our carbon footprints. And I think this year has helped us to hone those skills a little bit.
Sure. And in general, and finally, you're confident about the future for the events industry. Now we're sort of thankfully coming through this.
Absolutely. People want to get back together. You know, people need to meet. That hasn't changed. Human nature will not change through a pandemic. We'll be out, and I'm actually very positive that it'll be back bigger and better than ever.
Fantastic. So Mike Dynan, the founder of the Assembly Events Group, we wish you and your staff and your team a fantastic CrimeCon next weekend. We look forward to seeing the pictures and all the feedback.
Thanks very much, Dan. Lovely to speak to you. And